Well, it's official. The two most populous countries in the world have just announced a strategic shift in relations that potentially could turn out to be one of the most consequential geopolitical stories of the 21st century. India's Prime Minister Modi just revealed the truth about his relationship with China, and it's something you'll never hear about in traditional mainstream media.
Our ties have been extremely strong with deep cultural connections. If we look back centuries, there's no real history of conflict between us. It has always been about learning from each other and understanding one another.
Now, the move is significant for many reasons. India and China together account for 34% of the world's population, but even more impressive, the two nations combine for over 50% of the world's economic growth. If China and India move strategically closer together, these two nations will become an unstoppable force that will dominate the future of the 21st century.
Our relationship should remain just as strong in the future. It should continue to grow. Instead of discord, we emphasize dialogue, because only through dialogue can we build a stable, cooperative relationship that serves the best interests of both nations.
What Prime Minister Modi said in this clip is so profound. While the United States is isolating itself on the global stage, passing tariffs and starting a global trade war, India and China have resolved their previous disputes and is setting forth on improved relations that Prime Minister Modi explains will have a profound effect on the world. Global stability and prosperity from China and India. It might sound like a new concept, but in fact, it's one of the oldest in world history. Just look at this fascinating graph, which displays 2,000 years of economic growth in one chart. For the majority of time, China and India were the two largest economies in the world. But during the late 1800s, at the peak of Western colonization, both China and India became poor. The United States emerged in the 1900s to become the economic superpower for the next century. But since 2000, the United States' percentage of economic growth is declining, and the world is reverting to its previous position, where China and India will once again lead future economic growth. Our world has shifted tremendously the past 100 years, mainly in part because of globalization. But here is where things get very interesting, because United States Vice President J.D. Vance recently gave a speech that reveals why the US government is so scared of China and India working together in the future.
The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain while the poor countries made the simpler things. Now, we assumed that other nations would always trail us in the value chain, but it turns out that as they got better at the low end of the value chain, they also started catching up on the higher end. We were squeezed from both ends.
To be honest, this is a truly remarkable speech from the vice president, because it's the first time a US politician has been honest about the United States' efforts around the world. Vance is arguing that globalization has failed because wealthy nations should have climbed higher up the value chain, while poorer countries stayed behind to just manufacture goods. In a US politician's perfect world, countries like China and India could manufacture all the products American consumers need, but ideally, they would stay poor and never reach the level of the United States. Of course, the complete opposite has happened. China didn't just become the global leader in manufacturing. China began designing and building their own companies that could compete against their Western counterparts. China was never going to be content with just being a source of cheap labor indefinitely. Instead, China produced its own supply chains and now dominates many of the most important industries that will lead the future of our world. Just take a look at this fascinating article from the Financial Times, which shares that China has now delayed approval of BYD's Mexico plant amid fears tech could leak to the US. Honestly, this is a remarkable shift. For years, the United States routinely accused China of technology theft. Now, the opposite might happen. China is worried that the United States might steal technology from them. The tables have completely reversed. And now you can understand why the average US politician is so frustrated with China and India rising up and working together. J.D. Vance admitted globalization's true aim was never to reduce global inequality, but to cement it. But our world has changed forever. China is already the largest economy in the world when measured in terms of purchasing power parity, and India is quickly rising and is now forecasted to surpass both the Japanese and German economies by 2030. Indeed, the 21st century belongs to Asia. Everyone, today's video is going to break down how China and India will work together to reshape the world economy. We're going to break down how under Donald Trump, the United States is quickly losing control, and most importantly, what all of this means for you. But before I reveal this, I want to talk about a growing trend I'm seeing, which is people moving away from big tech platforms. It's no secret that massive companies like Google and Facebook sell user data. And in today's day of fraud and spam, you need to safeguard your future. And today's video sponsor, Proton Mail, is going to help you keep one of the most important things in your life more secure, and that is your inbox. Now, the switch from Gmail to Proton was a no-brainer. My Gmail receives spam emails and fraud emails regularly, but Proton Mail is one of the few mail email services that protects users' personal information from being monetized or misused by tech giants. And here are 3 unique features that I love about Proton Mail. Number 1, email aliases. Proton Mail offers unlimited email aliases, allowing you to create unique email addresses to protect your primary inbox from spam and enhance your privacy across online services. Number 2, dark web monitoring. Proton Mail helps protect your identity by alerting you if your email address or other personal information appears on the dark web. And number 3, the fight against big tech. Proton Mail offers one of the few genuine tools that protects users' personal information from being monetized or misused by tech giants. Switching is easy and can be done in a few clicks. To secure your information in 2025, simply visit proton.me/Cyrus to get up to 30% off the Mail Plus plan. But now let's get back to our story and explain how Trump is not only injecting economic uncertainty, but geopolitical uncertainty across the world and bringing together countries in unprecedented fashion. Just look at this headline from the Asia Media Center, which states, Trump 2.0 shock forces Japan and Korea to consider where they stand in the world. You see, it's not just India and China that are improving relations to take advantage of the new multipolar world we live in. Just last week, top diplomats from China, Japan, and South Korea met in Tokyo to forge a new path forward together amid escalating global uncertainty. The Japanese foreign minister said it best. Given the increasingly severe international situation, I believe we may truly be at a turning point in history. And honestly, this is truly a remarkable story that's developing. For decades, the United States has been the closest ally and most important trading partner for both Japan and Korea. But in just 2 months of Trump's return to the White House, the door has been open for China to forge closer ties to countries that have always traditionally aligned with Washington. This is the first high-level meeting between Japanese and Chinese officials in over 6 years. And once again, we are seeing Donald Trump's global trade war serving as a catalyst to a superior opportunity for China's future. For one of the most fascinating insights into this situation, I want you to read this article from the China Academy, where Mao Keji, a visiting scholar at Harvard University, states the starting of the trade war was the best thing Trump did to China. I've had the opportunity to personally connect with Mao Keji, and will soon bring him on this channel to share his valuable insights from the perspective of a young Chinese scholar. But this article, which I'll link to in the description below, explains very clearly the reality of the situation. Predicting what will happen in the 4 years of Trump's second term is extremely difficult, but for now, one thing seems certain: the US global influence will shrink significantly. This is perhaps the clearest trend to emerge so far from Trump's second term. If Trump's policymaking continues at its current pace, then by the end of his 4 years, the US alliance system, the dollar status as a global currency, America's influence over multilateral institutions, its military presence across the world, and even its ideological and media dominance will all be significantly diminished. This is a deliberate choice by the Trump administration. To be honest, I absolutely love the calm, rational analysis from Mao Keji here. Donald Trump is changing everything in the US government and aggressively moving in directions we have never seen before from a US president. The aggressive moves have caused fear and panic in global market. Essentially, every time Trump announces a new tariff, the stock market goes down. Every time he announces a delay in tariff, the stock market goes back up. Like we mentioned at the start of this video, Trump brings an incredible amount of political and financial instability to both the domestic and international market. But if Trump continues down this path, it will result in a world that will become less reliant on the United States. And in fact, this is exactly why we have shifted to a new multipolar world where countries now have many options. Through China's Belt and Road Initiative and its advanced developed economy, China has become a reliable trading partner for the vast majority of developing countries around the world. But with Trump leading the United States down a new path where America's global influence will be reduced, more countries will follow in the footsteps of India, Japan, and Korea and shift closer to China to counterbalance Trump's global trade war. I found this analysis from this Chinese scholar fascinating because it really gives an amazing perspective of why so many Chinese people actually preferred Donald Trump to win the recent US election. Many Americans falsely believed that China fears President Trump, but the reality is far from the truth. Trump's nickname in China is 建国统治, which literally translates to comrade nation builder. It's a fun way of basically stating that Trump's tariffs and trade war against China is actually helping China grow as a nation. Once again, just listen to Mao Keji explain what many Chinese scholars and intellectuals are currently thinking. To be honest, I don't particularly care whether Trump is beneficial or harmful to China. He is only a marginal variable for China. China is a vast country with a large population and a massive industrial base. In many cases, so long as its domestic affairs are well managed, there is no need to fear a volatile international situation. The most beneficial thing Trump did for China during his first term was launching the trade and tech war. This was a wake-up call that made China realize the urgency of developing independent and controllable technology pathways and accelerating its transition towards smart technologies. Without Trump's policy of extreme pressure, no Chinese government department or domestic enterprise would have been able to drive the transition to domestic alternatives. Ultimately, whether something is beneficial or harmful depends on how well China can absorb external shocks. At the end of the day, strengthening China's capabilities and focusing on domestic priorities is probably more important than anything else. There is no need to fixate on Trump. But as we come to the conclusion of today's video, I'll leave you with one final insight from Mao Keji, whose area of expertise is actually India and Sino-Indian relations. He shares, for a long time, India has sought to leverage its future great power status and its strategic potential to counterbalance China in exchange for free strategic resources. However, if Trump were to put an explicit price on these strategic resources and force India to accept the full terms, Modi would definitely not just obediently comply. This explains why India's strategic and academic circles have recently seen growing criticism of Modi for aligning too closely with the US at the cost of India's strategic autonomy. Meanwhile, others have, after many years, now begun to discuss the idea of fully restoring engagement with China. Just a few years ago, China and India were locked in an intense border dispute that had dozens of deaths and was a major conflict between the two nations. But just last October, India and China came together, resolved this border conflict, and now is setting off on a new path forward. And this is what the new multi-world is all about. Trump has only been in power for just over 2 months, but already we've seen an incredible amount of global shift and alliances changing faster than anyone could have imagined. While there certainly is an unprecedented amount of geopolitical uncertainty moving forward, fear in the markets and our global economy always creates new opportunities. And we're going to make sure that we keep you up to date as all of these industries progress. Once again, I want to thank Proton Mail for sponsoring today's important video. Make sure that you safeguard your email and take advantage of their incredible 30% discount by simply clicking the link down below. I want to thank you all for your amazing support, and I look forward to seeing you all in our next video soon.